taking those from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back into Celtics Postgame Live. I am your host, Rob Atain, and I'm with my two co-hosts, Justin Lowe and Seamus Zaralingo, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day, as the Boston Celtics take down the Miami Heat, 127-102, and they tie this series up one game apiece heading back into Boston, guys. Celtics kind of got off to a slow start here. As they started down 10 points, 18-8, right? So he may call the timeout, and it was all seas from there. Boston then went on to go on a 62-27 run behind a 27-point performance from Jason Tatum, a 24-point performance from Jaylen Brown, and a 24-point performance from Marcus Smart. It is just such a big win, guys. Now, Justin, game one kind of felt like a scratch as soon as we heard the Horford and Smart news. Celtics go in there, play three-fourths of a great game. Kind of ran out of the gym completely in that third quarter. And, they bounce back tonight. What does this mean for the Celtics as they head back to Boston tied at one apiece, as the Heat have not lost at home yet this playoff? This is the first
and you just mentioned it right there. That's what I was going to mention, actually. This is a really, really big game from Boston. Now, look, game one, I know the Celtics did lose it, but the Celtics have only lost one quarter this series. Unfortunately, the one quarter we lost it so bad we ended up losing the game. But look, this is a huge confidence booster. You go into Miami, the Eastern Conference Finals, first two games, you're banged up. You could have all the excuses in the world coming off of a game seven. You're all banged up. You don't have 2 fifth-year starters in game one. You're missing Derek White here in game two. And you don't make any of those excuses. You make the adjustments you need to make, and you come out. And I expected the Celtics to respond, but they responded in one hellish fashion. And that's definitely got Coach Spoelstra rattled over in Miami's locker room. So we'll see that. We should also really monitor how the PJ Tucker injury affects this Heat team, because that will really affect this Miami Heat team. If they have to throw in Duncan Robinson, who, yes, he can shoot the ball at a very high rate, but that guy, I was talking to a Heat fan during the game today, and he told me the Heat haven't been playing Robinson because he can't guard a parked car. That's what he told me. That's it. I laughed when he told me that. So the Heat are certainly out for adjustments, especially if they're going to be banged up, but I'm feeling very comfortable going back to Boston tied 1-1, where, like you mentioned, Rob, the Heat have yet to lose a home game until tonight in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the Celtics here have not lost 2 games in a row, guys. If you want some stats, they have not lost 2 games in a row since January 22nd, I believe. The Celtics have responded when they needed to respond, Seamus. And, we've seen it throughout the playoffs. No team has beat us twice in a row. How do the Celtics kind of adjust and adapt after they lose like they did tonight?
Well, you guys kind of mentioned it early on, where we've only lost one quarter in this entire series. And unfortunately for the Celtics, that one quarter resulted in a game one loss. And ultimately, looking at the entire spectrum of the playoffs, one loss can mean an entire series. However, from that game one, you can take away a lot of positives from game one. And one of those for me was how abnormal that period was without Marcus Smart and without Al Horford in the lineup in that third quarter. During that third quarter, the Miami Heat pressured the Celtics all the way to half court, pressured Tatum, pressured Smart, pressured Derek White. This is in game one, mind you. And all of those guys made errant decisions. Sorry, Marcus Smart didn't play game one, but they pressured Boston's ball handlers, and that led to lazy passes, bad decisions, and guys a home run on every single possession once they started to go down to the Heat. And tonight, that was the complete opposite. I've been talking about it really since game 3 of the Milwaukee series. Once the Celtics offense slows down, patiently moves the ball around the key, and finds their open shots, that is when they're clicking. And, of course, when they're making those open shots, you see what can happen. tonight, 12 of 19 in the first half for the Celtics. This game was really over at halftime. We broke even with them in the second half, but the Celtics' ability to stay patient offensively, stay calm offensively, and create the shots that they want. Tatum was a huge, huge factor in that. Smart as well, 12 assists tonight was a huge, huge factor in that. Brown mentioning him as well in all of this equation. The Celtics' ability to create those open shots the way that they didn't in the third quarter and their patience on offense tonight made all of the difference compared to game one. And moving forward, the Celtics have a major opportunity on their hands now because we are playing for a spot in the NBA Finals. It's crazy to say considering where we were back in January, but the Celtics, they are 3 wins away from the NBA Finals right now, and it looks as if they have the upper hand, both in health. All of a sudden, coming into this game, it didn't look too prominent, but Smart, Horford, Rob Williams, they all play tonight. They all look close to 100% out there. And now you have Lowry out of the lineup. Justin mentioned PJ Tucker out of the lineup, Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. And I believe they had 2 other guys dealing with injuries coming into this game or game one as well. So you have health on your side if you're the Celtics. And also now you look at the game plan and all the guys out on the floor. If the Celtics go into the TD Garden and execute all of their stuff offensively while keeping at it defensively the way we know they can, this should be a series the Celtics can win. We've already beaten 2 very, very tough teams, one of them, of course, being the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. But now the Miami Heat, I really feel the Bucks were better than the Miami Heat, especially with Giannis Antetokounmpo at the helm for them. And now the Celtics, they have a major opportunity in going home. They take care of home court advantage. We could be coming back to Miami in Game 5, potentially trying to punch our ticket to the NBA Finals. So right now the Celtics certainly have to be feeling pretty damn themselves after what happened in the first 2 games, them splitting in Miami in the first 2 games, especially considering the circumstances that they faced in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, the name of the game is when you're the road team in the first 2 is to take 1. If you can go back home with the tied series, you've done your job and you've done a great job. So in that factor, the Celtics came into South Beach and they took care of business. Plain and simple, obviously, no Derek White tonight. Did not seem to be a problem at whatsoever. Peyton Pritchard, 10 points off the bench. Pritchard's been amazing on offense. But, I do think that you look at this, and I was worried. I was texting you guys. I was definitely worried and rattled after that third quarter collapse because it felt like game 1 was such a winnable game. If we had just lost that quarter by maybe 10, we win that ball game instead of 22. And so that was definitely discouraging, but the Celtics came out and they played a complete game. Smart and Horford had this game written all over, in my opinion. Horford didn't show up in the box score, but plus 16, plus minus. It just felt like when he's out there, the team is just a little bit more calm. You see maybe these young guys just take a deep breath. I mean, this team is still very young. The average age on this team is 24. So that's a very young team. Obviously, the Heat are so well coached. The Celtics lead was not big enough for them to fold as they did. So I definitely do think, Seamus, you have it on the money that third quarter for game 1 was just such an abnormal, and you don't see that from the Celtics team. Really, I don't think you'll see that again, knock on wood, for the rest of the series and hopefully the playoffs as we look to advance here. But something I want to talk about this game is Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams in the bench. It kind of feels right that the Heat outmatch us offensively on the bench. We know what the Celtics can do defensively with White and Williams, how they can switch 1 through 5, but it kind of feels like offensively they got Hero, they have Oladipo, they got, when healthy, usually Vincent or Strus comes off the bench. So they got these guys that are just real tough shot makers, but so far, I feel like for at least the Celtics, I know the Heat are a little bit thinner than Boston is right now with Lowry out of the lineup. It kind of moves one of those 2 less talented ball handlers to 2 of the guards starting spot. But Justin, how big has Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard been, not only just tonight, but just this whole playoff run the C's have gone on?
Yeah, so coming into this postseason, Peyton Pritchard was a guy, even going back to the trade deadline, Peyton Pritchard was a guy where it's like, okay, he had one hell of a rookie year. maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump, and we were really questioning if he was going to be on the team at the deadline, what his role would be with this team, even past the trade deadline. And it turns out that these two players, Grant Williams has done it all season, have been huge reasons why the Boston Celtics are 3 games away from a finals appearance. Obviously, we haven't seen too much of Nesmith, but I thought in game 1, Nesmith was phenomenal on the defensive end. I thought offensively the game really hasn't slowed down for him. But for Peyton Pritchard, coming in and knocking down these shots is huge. There's zero confidence lost. I mean, there were times this season, guys, where we saw Peyton Pritchard DNP coach's decisions. We didn't see that at all during his rookie year. This year, now transitioning into his sophomore year, things are different. Not only is the roster changing, but Ime Udoka, even in the regular season, was sticking to those 7, 8, rarely 9-man rotations, and Pritchard barely even cracked it. As far as Grant Williams, so versatile, can play both ends. He had 19 points. I was just doing the graphic in case people were wondering why I was looking down the whole time. He had 19 points tonight, and his defensive efforts are unbelievable. The way he could defend the perimeter stands out as well. He's one of the most underrated defenders in this league, in my opinion. He doesn't get enough credit, but those two guys are so huge, and especially in a night where you're missing Derek White, who's typically your 6-man, 7th-man, maybe stretch it. So to see them step up like this, and this is the Eastern Conference Finals. These guys are built for this moment, and they're stepping up big time.
Yeah.
And the theme of this team, this entire playoff run and this entire season has been responding to adversity. And I really have no idea why people were having such a fit after game 1, after what we saw, because, well, I kind of already mentioned this, but that third quarter was just so abnormal for the Celtics that you can't just look at that one moment in the game and go, oh, well, the Miami Heat seem to have their number. The series might be over. No, the Celtics have responded this entire playoff run. You think of the Nets series going back to game 1. In game 1, the fourth quarter, they respond to adversity there. They respond in game 2 to that game, come out and punch the Nets in the mouth. They go and win 2 games on the road in Brooklyn. That last one in game 4, the last 6 minutes was without Jason Tatum. They had to close the series off against Kevin Durant, against Kyrie, without Jason Tatum. You go to the Bucks series. You lose game 1 at home. The Celtics come back from that and respond in game 2. They kind of blow game 3. They come back and respond in game 4, coming back from double digits late in that game. They blow game 5 against Milwaukee, and then they go and win the last 2 games of that series. And finally, of course, in game 1, they played endlessly in that third quarter, and yet in game 2, they come out, just set up an entire clinic in the first half of the game, pretty much ended at halftime. They trade buckets in the second half with the Heat, and they bring the series back to Boston, tied 1-1. I'm not shocked at all at the performance of this team tonight. I'm very shocked that it was a 25-point win, and as much of it was, how many points were we up at one point? We were 32 points up at. I mean, that's just a ridiculous margin for a team playing on the road. But I'm not surprised at all the Celtics were able to respond and win this game tonight, especially with Horford and Smart back in the lineup. Those guys were big, particularly Smart. We all know what he did, 24 points, 12 assists tonight. I believe there was a statties. Let's actually pull it out here real quick. They had it on ESPN graphic. So Marcus Smart, first Celtic points, 10 assists, and 3 steals since 2012, and that would be Rajon Rondo. And the Celtics, they drafted Marcus Smart to essentially replace Rajon Rondo later on in that season before, of course, we traded for Aya later on in that season as well. But it seems to be working out pretty well for the Celtics and Marcus Smart nowadays.
I mean, Marcus has been huge as Ian joins us here, but I don't want to get like crazy here, but Marcus Smart this playoff, how he's been playing, I believe he's averaging 15 points, 7 assists, and I want to say 4 rebounds. I don't know how accurate that is. I'm pretty sure that's what his line is at, though. He's been playing at an all-star level. And I know you might think I'm crazy. I'm not calling him an all-star, but his impact on the game has been like he's playing the Drew Holiday role right now for that Buck squad. Last year, that's super reliable. You need a bucket. He can get you a bucket, but he's not the go-to guy. He plays the best defense on the court. He's turned into this phenomenal playmaker who can get the ball to anyone whenever they need it and wherever they need it, which has been a huge step up for him. So I think Marcus Smart is you need a guy like Marcus Smart on your team to win an NBA championship. He's like this Celtics Draymond Green or the Dennis, like that's what it feels like this role he's playing is that his impact is so big, and obviously he's the defensive player of the year. He finally got the recognition he deserved, but you can't replace what Smart brings. And I think that showed in game one in that third quarter where things got a little tough. Celtics need to make some stops, need to not turn the ball over, things that Marcus Smart does at a super high level, they weren't able to do. However, Ian Angelo does this live in after game two. Ian, how are we feeling with the Celtics' huge dominant blowout win in game two against Miami?
I'm feeling like with Marcus Smart and Al Horford, the Celtics looked absolutely unstoppable in this game. I mean, damn, like I knew, like obviously Al Horford and Marcus Smart, if you're missing two of your best defensive players, you're obviously not going to be as good as you are going to be like they were in game one. But damn, I didn't expect Marcus Smart to have a damn near triple-double. I didn't expect Al Horford, his stat line's not going to show up really much. I think he had like 10 points. But the defense that he played tonight was insane. They needed this defense. And, I mean, it just kind of shows you how important Marcus Smart and, Al Horford are to this team. Because, even when the Heat, obviously the game was pretty much over, but, they cut it to like 18, they regrouped, they came back out, and they got the lead back up to, 30-something? Or like 34, I think?
Blew it open.
I mean, if this was game one and we didn't have those two, who knows? Yeah. We might be looking at a early season type Celtics collapse in game two today. So
most definitely. I mean, it's just like, wow, like
it's insane. It's funny, absolutely insane.
It's also mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
Don't say that. Oh my
God, we're bringing that back, Rob. Come on, man. Anyway, but yeah. So one thing else I want to say, I have missed this Robert Williams so much. Yeah. Like, I mean, I never really thought of how much I really missed it until I saw him in game one, jumping around, getting every rebound, blocking every shot, and in game two, blocking every shot, getting every rebound. I mean, he had like a tough first stint out there in the first quarter. After that, he was basically perfect. He looked incredible tonight. And yeah, it's kind of insane. And I guess one thing I want to say about Miami is I think Jimmy Butler has no help offensively right now. I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm surprised Bam Adebayo isn't doing more. Like it almost felt like Bam Adebayo wasn't even there. So I mean,
how many points did he have?
How much the Celtics
tonight? 6.
So
I mean, it honestly feels like the Celtics are just putting them in a box right now.
So when we first when I made my series prediction, I had Miami winning game one, despite my little freak out I had after that third quarter because it was such a bad collapse. I had Miami winning game one, and I had us winning games 2, 3, 4. Miami 5, 6. That's what I think it's playing in that direction right now. But you look at the Celtics team, obviously, like I've done the past two series, I don't set my thoughts final set in stone until really after game 3, because game 2 is so shaky. Those first 2 games, it's adjustments, it's this and that. You don't really know what's going to happen. But when I look at the Celtics team, look at 1 through 4. I personally think we beat them out. Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford. I think they beat Strus or Lowry and Vincent and Butler and PJ Tucker. I think they blow them out. And I think Robert Williams, when he's healthy, he can absolutely hang around with the Bam Adebayo in this world. I think Bam Adebayo is a little bit more polished of an offensive version of Robert Williams, where he's got a little bit more of a face-up game and can do more with the ball offensively. But I think defensively, these two guys have the exact same impact in their abilities to guard 1 through 5 disrupt shots at the rim, and have that defensive presence. I can't stress it enough. Robert has been huge, but I just think the Celtics are a Miami Heat, just the better version. That's kind of what it feels like. They have the second superstar, and they have that third. Bam Adebayo is the third fill, in my opinion. It just kind of feels like these teams are identical as to what they bring, how they play defensively, their offensive capability. But Boston's just a better version almost in every single way. And like I said, I don't want to overreact or say the Celtics are winning the series, but that's what it seems to me. That's what it's been throughout this postseason. I think the Celtics their defensibility and versatility is just higher, and I think their offensive ceiling is higher than the Miami Heat. So it's just like, I don't know if Miami is going to offensively be able to keep up with Boston as good Boston's defense is, and we've seen it recently, guys. And mid-season, we worried about the Celtics shooting, but over this playoffs, they have been shooting lights out for a majority of this run, and it just kind of seems, Justin, that Miami might not be able to keep up with how offensively good and how defensively good we are. I don't think their offense can keep up with it.
Yeah, I love how Boston really cleaned their game up tonight. I believe, what was the stat? Tatum had 6 or 7 turnovers alone in that third quarter. In game one, Boston had 9 turnovers tonight as a total at 9. That is unbelievable. And going back to, Seamus just saying, we had a bad third quarter in game one, but did that mean the series was over? Not necessarily. I mean, the reason why I didn't freak out about that third quarter, even though how horrendous it was because like Coach Udoka said after the game, quite honestly, that whole third quarter was a bunch of fixable mistakes. And Boston focused on that. They executed well. And it all goes into buying into the game plan. We talk about it all the time on the podcast. We also talk about it here on the post-game show. These guys 1 through 15, even the guys who don't see minutes like a Nesmith, like a Nick Stauskas or Malik Fitz, those guys all buy into the game plan, and it's working out right now for the Celtics. And hey, they're 3 games away from their first NBA Finals appearance since 2010. 2010.
Protect home court. Protect home court, and we're going to the NBA Finals. Protect home court, and we go to the Finals.
We stole home court from Miami, which Miami, as I mentioned earlier in the show, if you're just joining us, this was Miami's first loss at home this postseason. Now, although Kyle Lowry is a big hit for them, they're also now, I believe, 8-1 without him, 7-1 without him. So Gabe Vincent Gabe Vincent a lot of credit.
Gabe Vincent's a bucket.
He has filled in very well for Miami. Maybe not crazy great like Kyle Lowry can be, but at the same time, you're 8-1 without Kyle Lowry.
I'm sorry, Kyle Lowry's bad.
You can't.
I'm sorry.
You can't do that.
He's 36. He's 35, 36. Just isn't at the same level.
I can't, as a fan, and I'm not even saying this as a broadcaster or whatever you want to call it. As a fan, I can't stand watching Kyle Lowry play basketball. He cries over everything. Back when we played Toronto in the bubble, oh my God, him and Nick Nurse on the same team, I couldn't stand it. I wanted to throw my phone at my TV and call them names that
you remember when Nurse was standing in the corner, pretty much on the court, and Brown, I think it was Tatum.
Oh yeah, Tatum threw it out of bounds. Yeah,
because he thought. Oh, that series was the worst. That should have been a 5-game series.
I hope Gabe Vincent overtakes Kyle Lowry's position forever. Forever. I don't want to see Kyle Lowry back on the court, even if it's for the bad.
I mean, my take on Lowry is that I honest to God think Vincent might be a better option. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Kyle Lowry.
For sure.
Yeah, but just from the box score, I mean, what's he really giving you? Definitely that veteran presence.
Wait. He's giving you charges.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. I mean, he definitely brings a defensive.
You can pencil in
intensity.
like 1 or 2 charges a game.
Yeah, but I just don't. I haven't watched Kyle Lowry all year. Like I said, from the little bit I've seen from him, he just kind of looks like a a shell of his former self. I mean, 9 points a game in the playoffs. He obviously has been banged up, but I don't think having Kyle Lowry on the court changed this series enough. It might give Miami a little bit more of an offensive go-to. I mean, he can knock down. He's a pretty good shooter. He's definitely can play make well too. I'm not going to discredit him completely. I just think he's 36. He's a guard. Being 36 is really tough to sustain to sustain a high level. And I think Marcus Smart might eat him alive. And can you imagine Kyle Lowry having to switch on Jason Tatum for 48 minutes? I don't know if that goes.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would applaud that.
That's a week. I don't know.
I would love that.
If you're listening in right now, maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong, but if you're listening in,
hold on. I have some breaking news. The Celtics are back in the weight room.
Oh, yes. Yes. Weight room Celtics are undefeated.
We need an update. Is that Nick Stauskas? We need an update on Stauskas.
Sure I don't know. I'll have to. We're getting strong.
We were talking about Kyle Lowry, though, and this is almost like the series for the Celtics to exercise their bubble demons a little bit, because not only do you have a chance at redemption, but you're also, if he does come back at any point, you kind of have redemption against, though you did beat him back in 2020, still a thorn in the side of the Celtics like he could be if he comes back in the series. Kyle Lowry certainly isn't at the same level he was when he was in Toronto. You just look at him, he doesn't look quite as in shape as he once did, and he really never really was a player that was in shape. And he also just looks slower out there, less explosive, less able to create his own shot. But that being said, that leadership and some of his, I want to say defensive antics at times can definitely get under the skin of somebody like a Jason Tatum, who we've seen multiple times. If some things don't always go his way, can be thrown off of his game just a little bit. So that's where Kyle Lowry's impact comes in. But at this moment, I feel as if Gabe Vincent is playing level of Lowry, or at the level in which Kyle Lowry can still play at. Plus, because Kyle Lowry, he's only 6 foot tall. He has a side match problem every single time he's out on the floor. And with Gabe there, he's 6'er at a younger age. He's only 25 years old. And offensively, he doesn't give you the same amount of playmaking that Kyle Lowry would. However, he's shown his ability to hit big in big moments. And first 2 games, he really replaced Kyle Lowry's production in terms of shot making. That being said, I agree. I don't know if Kyle impacts the Heat enough to win this series. Obviously, a long way to go in this series toward winning the series. We have only grabbed 1 game out of the first 2. We did our job in Miami. However, about the offense and the Celtics offense, Ime Udoka speaked on it, as you mentioned, Justin. Those mistakes in the third quarter of game 1 were fixable. You go back and look at the film, and the whole time it's the Celtics just making terrible decisions, them speeding up the offense, trying to hit a home run on every single play, taking the mid-range shot, taking early shot clock threes, trying to drive into lanes of you have open shooters on the perimeter. It was a order of just mishaps on that. It was all mental. It was all part of, hey, let's slow it down, let's move the ball around, let's find shots. And now you're seeing the Celtics, they just have way more offensive talent than the Miami Heat out there right now. And their offensive system, too. They just have better players who can hit shots and create their own shots, do more offensively, and play for other guys, create for other guys easier than Miami's guys. Just, this series has a long way to go, but Miami Heat have enough. I just don't see being as talented as the Boston Celtics right now, particularly offensively. Rob, you mentioned it, but I mentioned it too coming into the series, where I thought defensively these 2 teams are stacked, right? These 2 teams are going to defend their asses off. And, well, tonight, Celtics 127 on the Miami. We can debate upon that on the Heat. But these 2 teams were going to defend their ass off. And it really, to me, was going to be the that made the entire difference. And that's why coming in, the Celtics would take this series in 6 because they have the better offensive system and players to execute the system and create buckets for guys, and ultimately put more points up on the board as the series moves along. But right now, the Celtics, they're in a great spot. You guys mentioned we are 3 wins from the NBA Finals. If we protect home court in the NBA right now, the Celtics just seem like really the best team left. I mean, the Golden State Warriors on the other side of the bracket, but right now, I mean, it's like there's no one left in front of the Celtics. Obviously, the Heat and whoever they face in the finals, but I really do feel as the Celtics could potentially be the NBA champion this year.
Yeah, I think if you look at every team's path to the finals, I mean, you look at the Heat, they got past the Hawks, you got past the Sixers without Embiid for 2 out of the 6 games. And then let's take a look at the Warriors. Grizzlies, the Grizzlies are solid without Ja. They took them 6. It kind of feels like the Warriors are kind of the only threat, I think, to Boston's chances at winning the finals. And the only reason why I say that, I think Boston's the better team. But when you're going in the NBA Finals and you got Steph Curry, you got Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steve Kerr on the other side, that's an experienced team. They're just seasoned vets, and they got a lot of offensive firepower. With that being said, I just think Boston. We said this, guys. Boston's ability, or the fact Boston took care of Milwaukee. It felt like the winner of that series was going to not only go to the finals, but probably win the finals. It was 2 teams who've been playing the best basketball. It kind of feels like the 2 best players left in the playoffs, Giannis and Jason Tatum. That's what it felt like. And we weren't too sure about it. But after tonight and really how we played for 3/4 of the first game, that's what it kind of feels like. I just don't know if the teams like the Miami Heat and like the Golden State Warriors have taken punches to this level, from like this hard, that other teams have thrown. And I think Boston's first round against Brooklyn, it was not an easy 4 games. And obviously they took a punch from the defending champs multiple times and they responded and answered. And like I said, Boston hasn't lost 2 games in a row since January. If you want to win the NBA Finals, you got to win 2 games in a row, more times than not against us. So that's just really tough. If Boston's going to keep responding and keep answering when they lose just 1 game,
right,
it's going to be statistically impossible to almost beat them if they just keep responding, whether it's the game 7s or down. It's just like, it feels like the Celtics are just a little bit better than everyone else. And knock on wood, I don't want to jinx anything, but from what I've seen, I'm liking our chances. Obviously, I do think Miami's going to come back and give us their best game 3. I don't think Spoelstra is going to let that fly what happened tonight ever again. I sure hope he does, but I don't think he does. And I think Boston's sitting pretty. We take care of home court, and we're going to the NBA Finals at our place in Game 6. If we can just take care of home court. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, taking care of home court is going to be super important. If we can win both of these games, imagine being able to close the series out in Miami in 5.
Yeah, 5.
I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be in 6, or maybe 7, depending on what happens. But
I'd rather not 7.
I'd rather not 7, but hopefully 6 is the cutoff. But yeah, the resilience that this team has shown, like anytime their back is against the wall, anytime they're doubted, anytime they have a bad game, they just respond. And it's almost expected at this point. Like, Ime Udoka expects this out of his players, to respond, come back. And we have to give him a whole lot of credit because, I mean, I'm not going to hate on Brad Stevens at all. But if you think about it, last season, if we were down, in that Milwaukee series, or if we were down after game 1, who knows? Maybe we don't make this big a comeback, like this big a statement win in game 2. So
we hung our heads a lot with Brad.
Oh yeah, and that's no disrespect to Brad Stevens. It's just Ime Udoka is just another level right now of head coaching, and I mean they just showed the Marcus Smart cross on Sports.
Yeah, so I feel like that was Oh my God,
That was the
Justin and I were
craziest.
texting.
That was the
Oh,
craziest
what?
moment I saw when Smart
When-
dropped
when-
Strus.
Yeah,
Oh my
we just
God.
both text each other like, "My God,
I don't
what
think
just
I've ever
happened?"
laughed out loud during watching a basketball game. I laughed
that was-
physically.
that was
I couldn't
dirty.
contain myself. That was bad.
But
and then Smart
something-
dribbled closer to Strus and made the shot.
I know. I mean, but something I do want to touch on though, it is like when I look at the Heat team, I feel like, and more specifically at the Celtics defense, I don't see. We've seen these Celtics handle Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think Jimmy Butler is gonna do that. I just don't. I think Jimmy. You listen. Personally, I think he's guy's a little bit overrated. He's been playing well, but he obviously still a great player. He's been there before. He's against us, so until he beats us or until we beat him, he's still got the upper hand over us. But when I look, the only guy left is Steph. I think it's going to take a Steph Curry level type player to beat this team, and I don't think the Heat have that. Butler obviously is great; he's an all-star, but it's going to take a lot of offensive firepower to take down the Celtics defense when healthy, and I don't think the Heat have nearly enough firepower to do that. And I remember saying earlier, I want to say a month and a half ago during the season, that the Celtics are going to be in every single one of these games solely off their defense. And we've seen them twice here now kind of get blown out. Game 1 against Milwaukee, we got kind of handled, lost by, it was teetering 6 or 8 all game, and we ended up losing by like 13. Or actually, I think we lost by like near 20. But same thing with game 1. We were winning most of the game. Third quarter rolls around. We drop the ball and lose that. But, I just don't think, like I said, I don't think the Heat have nearly enough firepower to respond. I think even when Derek White gets back, we'll have him for game 3. If we have a full healthy lineup, we can switch everything. We saw Butler and Tyler here were just walking into those mid-range pull-ups and that drop coverage that we were running with Tice. You can't do that when we're healthy. And like I said, it's going to take a Steph Curry level player to beat us, a LeBron James type, great. And Jimmy Butler, I don't think he's that guy.
Speaking of Derek White, I do know that Derek White impacts. Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to him and his family for having his child today.
Yes.
So congratulations to Derek. I hope everything is going well. And but I do know that Derek White is known for having like insane plus minus stats. Peyton Pritchard tonight was a plus 41. That is the second most plus minus all time off the bench since Shane Battier in 2013.
What was it?
That has to be up there for just
41.
Grant was 37.
41. Grant was 37. I think Smart was like 31. And Peyton Pritchard, a plus 41. Shane Battier was the only one better to come off the bench at 42.
Well, Pritchard's been balling. I think that
I think once he hit his shots in Game 7 of the Bucks series, he immediately found his confidence.
Pritchard's all confidence. Yeah, I think Neesmith needs to take a page out of the Pritchard book, because if Neesmith played with a little bit more offensive confidence, he'd be a hell of a player just because of his effort in defensive ability, his frame, his size, his speed. But my thing with White is I just don't think, like, offensively, I think you can run White and Pritchard together. White kind of gives you that defensive punch. Pritchard gives you that offensive punch, and together it works pretty nicely. White kind of subs in, takes that smart role for the playmaker and defensive side. Pritchard subs in, and he's kind of that go-to bucket getter off the bench. Him and can kind of take over that like little Jaylen, like little 2-spot, like Jaylen Brown slot at the 2 guard. So I think Pritchard's been amazing. 3rd straight game with 10 points. He's been hooping. Celtics been hooping. Celtics tied this series up 1-1, guys. We're heading back to Boston Saturday night. I'll be there in attendance. I cannot wait for Game 3. 8:30 tip-off. You already know it's going to be an 8:45 tip-off because it's on ABC/ESPN, and they love to milk the hell out of these games.
Actually,
guys,
it'll be like 8:45 is when the game will start.
Yeah.
Because it's ESPN. So
when before we close out here, obviously we're finishing up, guys. Any final thoughts, comments as the Celtics handle the Miami Heat here tonight?
Well, Grant Williams, his plus minus tonight was the 10th best in playoff history. So you got that going for us. However, number one is actually a tie between Jimmy Butler against the Milwaukee Bucks in 2015. Then you have Desmond Bain this season, which was Game 5, I'm assuming, of last round when the Grizzlies beat the Warriors an insane amount. They were up by 50 at one point. But the other guy is also tied for number one, a plus 46. LeBron James in Game 3 of the finals in 2018. We got to that game, as StatMuse says, is those numbers. But the Celtics, all great for the Celtics. Grant plus minus, Pritchard's plus minus, their assist numbers tonight, their shooting numbers tonight. I can't find a bad number out there for the Celtics tonight. To respond in the manner in which they did tonight, we got to come up with a new phrase. Game 2 Celtics, the responsive Celtics. You look at Game 1 of the Nets series, they nearly game. They win it on buzzer beater. They come back, blow out the Nets in Game 2. Milwaukee, they really get destroyed and it looks better than it really was. And in Game 2, they come out and destroy the Milwaukee Bucks. And now in the Eastern Conference Finals, they lose Game 1 to the Heat and come out in Game 2 and destroy their opponent yet again. So if we move on to the finals, whoever the Warriors or the Mavericks, if we move on to the finals, it's because they are coming in Game 2 for sure, like they did tonight in Miami.
Yeah,
Definitely.
hell yeah.
If the Celtics can continue to play this way in this brand of basketball at home in the Garden, I mean, this series could potentially be over a lot faster than we think it might.
Yeah, I do want to see us win Game 3 like really badly. I feel like the Buck series, we did not see us take advantage of opportunities. I think one of those advantages was that like Game 5 situation back in Boston. Just shorten up the series a little bit, maybe. Let's not have this thing go 7. Especially we're really banged up. If maybe we can get a couple days off before the finals, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, like maybe we can do this thing just a little bit faster than Golden State or Dallas can do it. Give us some time off. Because these guys have been going at it now for like a month and a half at a really high level. So I really want to see us take care of business on our home court. Like win both of them, like take care of business, go back to Miami 3-1, because then that's doing, if we drop one at home, now we're thinking, oh shit, like now they got home court back. We're going back to Miami tied 2-2. They got a Game 5. It's just like win both at home. If Boston's up 3-1, I feel we may fold. So just take advantage of this opportunity at home, guys. Please win 2 games at home. That's all I ask. Other than that,
Stay
like
healthy.
Stay
Stay healthy,
healthy,
please.
yeah.
Make open
Please.
shots. Make a hit open
like I
shot.
said, Celtics defeat the Miami Heat 127-102. They tied this series up at 1 game apiece. Next game is Saturday at 8:30. Like we said, more like 8:45 because it is on ABC/ESPN, guys. We will have you covered here live after the game. I believe we're still figuring out who's going to be here, but we will have you live. Come back here. Let us know your thoughts and reactions to the game. Go Celtics.
See.
All right.
You're still